Hello, everybody. Sorry I'm running late today. I had a couple of little snags. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. I am going to show you something fun today. It's some of my favorite watercolor supplies. I'm not going to show you all of them, don't have enough time for that, but some of my very favorites. And then I'll show you how I like to use them. So, as you're coming on and joining me, I hope you'll let me know that you're here so I can see you in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from and how hot is it where you are. I am so hot. I don't know what the temperature is, but I keep rolling up my sleeves and doing all kinds of stuff trying to get cooler. And what are you going to have for lunch? We've got some fresh bananas, so I'm thinking I'm going to do a banana dog. Have you ever had a banana dog? It's a banana in a hot dog bun. Probably not the healthiest thing, but there's something weird about it that's comforting to me. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for being here. So let me know you're here in the comments. Let me know if you'll give me a thumbs up that the sound is good. Okay, I see somebody coming on now. Good. I'm using StreamYard, so which is awesome for me because it makes it easy for me to show my tabletop and be able to talk directly to you. But it doesn't let me see your name unless you allow me to see it. You have to give them permission. Okay, Barbara said it's only 75 degrees. Wow. And leftover lasagna sounds really good too. So 75 degrees and leftover lasagna. Wish we were closer. And Susan's from Illinois. And there's Dana. It is so humid here, and we haven't had rain in a while. So we've got tomatoes in containers, and everything is really feeling the heat. I've got flowers that I planted and tried to water them earlier today, but you can really see the effect that heat has on living plants and everything. So, okay, Dana, thank you for letting me know that the sound. I always have a fear of sitting here talking away and then nobody can hear me. And I can't hear myself. I mean, I can hear myself, but I don't know. I have to turn my sound off to keep from echoing. So, thank y'all for always letting me know. Well, I'm excited to share these things with you today. We just finished up a weekend of Jingle Mingle, which was so much fun. And if you didn't join, you can still do that. It's over in our Jingle and Mingle Facebook group. And I'm going to write myself a note just in case you didn't know about it. I'll put it in the comments. Leslie, my right-hand lady, is have some family things going on, so she's not here with me today. So I'm writing myself notes. I'm going to put it in the comments for Jingle Mingle. All right. So I'll tell you briefly what it was in case you don't know. It was 12. So me, 11 other of my friends, and we took Friday and Saturday, and each of us had an hour, and we did a presentation. It was so much fun how to start now to cut the chaos out of Christmas. So, okay. So Barbara got a kit. Good. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what you make with it. I loved putting that kit together. I love a lot of art supplies. I love old book pages, so we incorporated some of those. Let me grab it really fast. I'll be right back because I want to show you because it could tie into what we're talking about today. So, we had for my presentation. This is something that one way you could cut the chaos out of Christmas is to start early prepping. So this is what I taught in my presentation, and these are wood tags, and I used old book pages and scrapbook paper. This is actually from a hymn. Yay, Jan, I'm glad you're here too. And Barbara's got a kit ordered. I'm just giving a little recap from this weekend. And then I had a place on the back that you can personalize it with an initial. And then this would make a really cute gift tag that they could later use as an ornament. So that's one way you can cut the chaos out of Christmas, is to plan ahead and start now working. But the other little thing about this is you not only could cut the chaos out of Christmas, it's a stress reliever for now. And I think that probably most of you are starting to experience your own creativity, or you're already using and utilizing your own creativity. But when we use our creativity, it really is a stress reliever, especially if you don't allow Patty perfectionists to sit at the table with you, because a perfectionist is never ever satisfied. So that kind of steals the joy from using your creativity. But that's what I taught. And both of these could be done with watercolor. This is a mixed media project, and I used paint and I used Neo colors, which I'm going to talk about today also. So some of this overlaps with what we're going to talk about during the live today. So that was our jingle mingle, or mine. A lot of other things. There was cookie recipes. Jonica was teaching how to do cookies, and Lo was doing a facial. Miss Tracy Creates was doing these really cute canvases. We had two of my friends were sewing. Natalie with the ginger quilter, and I feel like I'm losing. Oh, we had several art projects. Anyway, you need to go check it out if you didn't get to. So, looks like everybody in Kansas City, you're getting rain and lightning and thunder. I hope we'll get some of that. A lot of times y'all's weather comes across, and I'm in East Central Alabama, and if Texas, depending on where it's at, but we often get the storms that are in Texas and come across that way. A lot of times they dissipate before they get here, but not always. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started to make the most of our time. If you have questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll try and keep looking up to watch for your questions. But what I wanted to do today is show you some of my favorite watercolor supplies and how I use them in lettering, because you can do more with watercolor supplies than just paint pictures, which is great. You can use them in mixed media paintings, which I do, but you can also use them in lettering. So that's what I wanted to show you. So I think what I'll do, let me see if I can make my tabletop bigger and me little. There we go. Okay, so I pulled out a few things. So one of the first things that we need is some type of paper. And remember, and I'm trying to remind myself, I'm not going to try and show you all the things. I'm going to try and show you my favorites of the things. So I made a new hairdo for Chicky. You see it? It's a little, well, she's got water in her, so I can't really show you. Let me do it this way, because I love this thing. If you like pottery, look at this. I call her Chicky. So these are some flowers that I have growing in the yard, and I like changing out her hairdo every week. So I was running late getting her hairdo done. But it's just a little something I keep on my table, and it's just a source of joy. There's so many ways you can surround yourself with little things to add color to your day and just give you a source of joy. Okay, so got Tennessee's. Okay, Dana, maybe I'll get some of your rain. All right, so we need paper. Move this, and I'm going to show you some that I like to use. This is watercolor paper that I found at Five Below. So if you don't have one in your area, I don't know if you can order from them online, but everything is $5 and below. Look at all the paper in this pack of paper. It's 5 inches, 5.5 by 8.5, which is perfect for many of our lettering projects. So this is, and I love, it's really smooth, which is great for lettering. And it's also, I love the way the paint, look at that. Let's see if I can hold it up. You can just see all the variations in the pigment, and I love that. So this is one of my favorites to use, and I thought I might see one in here. So some of this is watercolor paint, and then some of it is, I think that's probably a Tombow marker, which is a watercolor marker. And that's probably what that is. But this is one of my favorite brands of watercolor paper, and it's not expensive. So it's HQ Fine Stroke series, and I purchased this from Five Below. Okay, there is a website. It says www. Oh boy, I need readers to read that. I don't see any. I think it says fsc.org. So you might be able to order this if you don't have a Five Below nearby. This is really good, especially if you're just starting out with watercolor or if you're wanting to do lettering, because it's just such a good size, and it's really good for lettering or painting on the go. So that's one that I recommend. And then this one is, oh goodness, what in the world? Are y'all still there? Almost had an accident there. Let me get that right there. That would be bad. Okay, this is another brand. We can get this from Michael's. I think even Walmart has this. It's Canson is the brand. And this is actually mixed media paper. And they also have watercolor paper. I like their watercolor paper also. But this one, it's thinner than the typical watercolor paper, but it still allows you to see the pigments and how the water affects each of those colors. And I love the little granular effect that you get in there. So that's another type of paper that you can use for lettering or just doing illustrations. This is where I was experimenting with some of it. I really recommend doing that. So see, what I did is I put Prisma pencil here, and this is the effect that I got with it. Neocolor 2, this is some of the effects that I got with it. So it's like a scientific study almost. And this is great for reference because I can look back at these, like there's a Crayola marker with water added, and that's the effect that I was able to get with it. Faber-Castell pen, artist pen, and the effect. This is a different brand. I think this was the Michaels brand, and then this is a Tombow. So this tells me two things. It tells me the effect that I can get with these particular tools, but it also shows me the effect I can get with this type of with this type of paper, which when you're doing projects, it really does save time. And you know, for a lot of people, we don't use our creativity because of time. So if you just took a little block of time and worked through some of your supplies with a pad of paper and just did some testers, right? The name of the pen, here it is. This is, I think it's Marvy is the name. So write the brand and just test it out so you can see what colors you have, the effect that it has. So that's another brand that works well. And their watercolor paper, I like it as well. Now let me show you this brand. This is much more expensive, but this is one that I use for my artwork. Like whenever I'm painting for like something I'm going to make prints with or note cards, or like my calendar, it's time for me to start working on my artwork for the 2024 calendar. And I keep just scratching my head and like, how can it already be time to do that? But this paper is super duper smooth, like super duper. And another thing I like about it is it's on a pad. It's a gummed pad, so it holds it flat and I don't have to tape it down to keep the paper from curling. So this is a good one that I use for on the go, but it is much more expensive. And I just wanted to show you so that you could see there's different types of paper and really different uses. I wouldn't really use this one for lettering projects unless I was going to use it for a lettering project that I was going to turn into a print or into a product, just because this costs more. So that's just a quick overview about some of the paper that I like. So let me move that. Another thing that you need when you're doing watercolor is water. So I have a couple of different ways that I collect my water, or what I use to hold water. So I use these spray bottles. I have a big one, like this one on the left, and I have a small travel size. I actually have a good bit of these because I'm bad about losing my stuff. I really like these because I'll have these on, like I've got a watercolor table. I'll have one on my table. This is my lettering table. I'll have one here. I'll probably have one over on my mixed media table. I've got a travel bag. I probably have one in there. I just have to do a lot of artwork on the go, and these work out well. This, the big one, I don't travel with it. I don't know exactly where it's at. I even have one that's even smaller than this. Here it is. This is even better because this will fit in my pouch, my pen pouch. And you just fill the barrel with water and then just pump it. Now, why do we need these? Here's why. If you're using, well, let me show you the other thing and then I'll tell you why. So then I like to have, I don't know, I just like cups and mugs, china cups. I just like it all. Punch cups. I've got punch cups that I save and put things in. But with this, I like having something clear because it helps me see that my water's getting really dirty, and depending on my project, I might need a cleaner water. So this is just a big clear mug that I keep water in. I'll also use jars like this, and I can use one jar that is clean. It looks like we're back. So one that's clean, and then one that's a little bit muddier. So look for fun things for your water. It doesn't have to be boring. All of these are different shapes and sizes. And even the punch cup, I've used punch cups also for my water. So here's why we need the water. Because if you're using paint from a palette like this is one of my favorites. And the reason why I like this so much is it's portable. It's easy to travel with. It's good for creating on the go. But I love their sets because they put together the colors that work well together. So that's one less thing I have to think about. So the brand is Art Philosophy. That's the watercolor, and they have really fun names. So this set is called Complexion, and it's got a lot of different complexions or shades that could be used for portraits or faces, but I use it for a lot of things. So and then it has this little fold out thing that you can use as your palette. So whenever I'm using something like this, I need to spritz it to wake those colors up. And it just works out well to have a water bottle handy with my watercolors. So that's one of the uses. Another use for this water is if we're using like watercolor pencils, we need to wet them to activate them. So these are some of my favorite watercolor pencils. And again, I like them because of the color palettes in it. I love this. I love those colors. So I can draw with these watercolor pencils, but once water hits them, they become liquid. If I can get one of these out to show you. And let me show you. All right, so I'm going to get my HQ paper. Okay. Get it down here. And so I'm just going to draw right here. Can you see that, or do I need to lower my camera? I'm using a different little, what do you call it thing? I could not find my iPad. I mean, seriously, where could it be? So I'm having to use my phone, which is not as easy, but it is what it is. So watch this. Let me pull it up because I'm afraid I'm going to turn this thing over again if I don't. All right, so see, whenever I add water, look, it becomes movable. So that's one purpose that we have with water. But let me show you another with these particular pencils. So with a palette of some sort, this is one that came with my Neo colors. I can draw on this, take my paint brush with a little water, and this is my favorite way to do it. I like to do it on a palette. And let me show you the difference. Now, here's why I like it better. See, whenever I drew directly on the paper, some of that didn't move. I've still got the brush strokes. I can keep scrubbing at it, but one thing to keep in mind with watercolor paper, it starts tearing, and see, that's what's happening right there. So I prefer, whenever I'm using my pencils, I really like putting it on a palette first and then adding water. Okay, so that's why we need water with our I'm just going to call it water soluble tools. That's what activates them. Right, so let me rinse that out, and then let me show you. So let's now start going through the different palettes, and then I'll show you the different sources that we can use. So this is one that came with, I bought a set of these. I've bought lots of sets of these because we put these in our kits because I love them. They're so versatile. So this is a Neo Color 2. Let me just grab it. Hold on. Everything's close by, so let me just grab it because I think you would like seeing this. So this is what the case looks like. Okay. Well, come on. Look at those beautiful colors. They look like crayons, but they're magical. Not really magic, but it feels magical. How's that? So let me show you how they work. These are new, and I'll use these in kits, but I just wanted you to see how pretty they are. They're water-soluble wax pastels. So they're very similar to the pencil. So just say we're going to put it down on our paper. Let's get a little bit of water on our brush and add water to it, and it becomes movable because it's water soluble. That's what water soluble means. Now, it's not as translucent as the pencil. Can you see that? This is more opaque, but these work in watercolor paintings, mixed media. And now let me show you how it works if I were to do it right here on the palette. And there's one thing about this palette is it's rough. And if you are in my lettering group, you know that I have a sour cream lid that I use all the time. I like to use it because it's rough and it's white. So whenever you're looking for a palette, there's so many options. But look for something that's white because it's going to show you what that pencil or pen or whatever is going to look like, what the pigment is going to look like on paper. See? And it's movable. It's not quite as movable as watercolor paint, but it is movable. And I use these things all the time in my artwork. I use them in mixed media. I use them in lettering. So I like to include them in my kits because most people probably wouldn't try them So I call it tools to test drive. Okay, let's see. I like taking my brush to my color source to avoid the, yes, for smoother application. Yes. So I wish you could feel this because it's got a rough texture. Now, this on this side is very slick. So it works as well, but when you're using the, lost my color. So when you're using the Neo color, it still works, but it just doesn't scruff off as well as it does on that rough side. But once you get it on paper, it's okay. All right, so that's how many palettes have I shown you? I've shown you 2. My sour cream lid, this one that is the Caran d'Ache brand, but you can also use, like, this is the watercolor pencil case. You can use that as your palette. It's white. Anything that's white. Where's my other one? I also have these trays, and I really like these whenever I'm working on a project because I can have all my colors that I'm working on, and I have room to mix them, or I have room to water it down to dilute it. So I like these as well. Let me move it. Let me change cameras so you can see how big it is. It reminds me of some pans that my Meemaw had. So I just really like these. I have several of them and I stack them up. So and they make different sizes for these. So my nose is itching. I found these at Michael's. I don't think there's a brand on it. It's just an enamel tray. And I forgot to bring it, but I have a stack of my Meemaw's china that nobody's using. It's just sitting there in the boxes, and I decided I'm going to use that stuff. So I've been using it for palettes. I've got a stack of her saucers, and I use those for paint palettes also with my watercolor. Anything that's water soluble, because when you're finished with it, you can just clean it off and wipe it down and reuse it again. This is another one. This is just it's not made to be a palette, but I really like it. It's a piece of pottery that I bought from a vendor friend, and it's actually to hold a block of cream cheese. Well, I've had it for 3 years and have yet to use it to hold a block of cream cheese, and I decided I'm going to use this. So I've got this new philosophy with all these things that I've got that I'm not using. I'm about to use them. It might not be for their intended purpose, but it works great. And it allows me to see what that color is going to look like on a white background. Okay, so I think I covered the palettes. So now let me show you some different tools. I call them tools that I use. I've already shown you a few. Let me get the top back over here. And let me know if you have questions. So we've got watercolor pencils, and it says use them with a wet brush or dip the pencil in water and draw. So each brand is going to describe it in their own unique way. So you can look for the words water soluble, watercolor, but not all of them tell you. So I have Googled it before. I've been in an art store and thought, I don't know if this is water soluble or not. Just Google it and see. That's what you're looking for. Is it water soluble? That means it's going to move with water. So, and these are great for lettering. So let me show you now how I would use this in lettering. So let me get my pencil. I think I'll go to the back side of this. So let's do it like this. Can you see that? All right, so now I'm going to do some letters and then show you how I would use each of these different tools for the letters. So let me just do So I'm adding that second line for the downstroke. So if I were going to do the pencil, I've already shown you how I could draw it directly on here. I'm just lightly coloring that in. And then, I hope my air conditioner has not stopped working because it is so hot in here. I'm just going to move it around on that paper. And I mean, it's okay, but I really prefer to do it on the rough surface. So now, just wanted you to see the difference. I'm just going to color that just very lightly. Then I'm going to take this and let that be the very thinnest part. So in lettering, if it works out really well, if for the downs, when the downstroke is the stroke, the part of the letter that you're going down, it's thicker. And so I'm going to just, there we go. Okay, so that's how I could use, that's one way that I could use watercolor pencils with my lettering. All right, now let me show you how I can use my Neo colors. So let's do another letter. Let's do B. So that's the downstroke. Then let's do, okay. So let me do a purple. I'm going to use the rough side. See how it's getting liquidy? Is that a word, liquidy? So I like to leave a little bit of white space with these for the light. And I'll hold this up in just a second, let you see it closer, because I'm kind of afraid to move my thing again. It might fall. All right. And what I can also do, if I wanted to deepen it some, look at that. I can just color directly right there on it. Or if I wanted to add some pops of color, which is what these are great for, I'm going to get a yellow. I feel like something's off with my setup because I'm moving the table. I can add little pops of color right there on the page. Or I'm going to get some on here. Now, if I was in a hurry, I could just grab a few of these, take my pencil, eraser, paper, some water, and I could take off. And if you were going to ball practice or something like that, you know, you can just work on something, your practice your lettering. Okay, so that's the Neo colors. Now let me show you just the typical palette. Okay, so let me do let's do a C. If I can hang on to let me keep up with the time. Yep, we're doing good. Let me know if you have questions. So there's the downstroke. So I'm adding that second line for the downstroke. And typically I do it to the inside or the right side of so like this one, I did it on the inside. This is on the inside, but it's the right side of that. The inside of this one is on the left side. On this, I drew this line and I did it to the right side of that line on this. So basically, if it's a curved letter, it's usually just think of to the inside. If it's a straight stroke, just do it to the right side. That might be the easiest way to think of that. Okay, so now let me get my brush and I'm just going to get a little bit of this kind of rusty color I'm going to spread it out right there to get it good and liquidy. And I'm going to use the point of my brush, and I'm just going to kind of outline that letter very lightly. I'm just barely touching it. See, I've got it very lightly. Then I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to put down a little bit of color. And see, I didn't re-dip my brush. I'm just letting it, let's see if I can hold it up a little bit closer so you can see. Now I'm just going to go back along the line to add let a little bit more color drop. You see that? Then I can pick up a little bit more of this pigment on my brush and then drop it, and see, wet on wet moves. So I'm taking something wet, adding it to something wet, and it's going to move, which is really great if that's what you want it to do. But if that's not what you wanted it to do, it's not going to be as great. So you just have to remember, wet on wet moves. So I'm going to add a little bit of white there, move that up over. So as this dries, what I can do now, once it dries, is add a little bit more of a layer and just build it up. I love doing layers. Hey, Linda, I'm glad you're joining us today. I'm just showing some of my favorite watercolor supplies and how I like to use them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry. I'll come back to that one to add a little bit more to it. So now I want to do one more letter, and so I'm doing that shape. I'm adding the downstroke, that second line for the downstroke, and then I'm just going to draw that. The other tool is a water-soluble pen. I thought I had some out here. Oh, well. Okay, so this is the Artist Loft brand. You can use these with, you can use Tombos. You can use Crayolas. I love the Crayola Super Tips. This is a Crayola Super Tip marker. And y'all, it's getting close to time for school to start back, so watch those sales. A lot of those school supplies are great lettering supplies. Okay, so let me show you how a super tip works. You can get a different color. See if I can get this pink. This is just a Crayola super tip. So with this, I could draw it directly on there, but these don't move as well once you put them on paper, because the paper starts just soaking it up. It does move. I'm not saying it doesn't move, but just look at that. Okay, see how you did get some, but not a lot. So in this case, I'm going to do it on my palette again. So I'm just going to draw a little bit right here. Add a little bit of water. Look how pretty that is. And then I'm just going to drop it down. Now, this makes it easy for anybody. Anybody can do this. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Like I showed you the paper that was more expensive, but I also showed you the brand that came from the Five Below, that the whole pad was $5. So don't be limited by supplies. You just want to use your creativity, and anybody can do this. All right, so what I want to do is show you something. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the Crayola ink there. I'll pick up a little bit more and just show you it's not as intense. The color is not as intense as the color in this, but it works. It works. So now this one is dry, and I'm going to show you now. I'm going to pick up some of that rusty color again, get just a tad more, and I'm going to add a little, make sure it's showing up. I want to drop a little bit right in there. There and right there. And I'm just not going to mess with that. I'm just going to let that dry. Now, do you notice that it's not moving like it did before because this is dry? So it's just going to kind of stay in that spot. And I like that. I like that look. I could even add some of that over here to this one. And I really like doing that whenever I'm lettering because it's connecting all of this. So I could add a little bit of this rust to that purple. Put a little bit right there. And let me get a little bit here. I'm going to add it to this first letter, the green. I guess my favorite, I don't know. If I had, it's almost like trying to choose your favorite child. And you can't do that. Okay, so that ties it all together. Just that one little touch with the that real pretty rusty color. I'm having a hard time doing this straight and holding the paper at the same time. But I wanted you to be able to see what the pigment does when we're moving it. Okay, so that's how. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to show you. This is still watercolor, but this is another one of my favorites. I use the colors that are in the pans like that. I also use the colors that are in the tubes. I didn't bring any of those over here to show you, but I wanted to show you these. These are color sticks. They're watercolor pigment in a stick form. And I use, like, we're getting ready to go out of town next week, and I'm going to work on my calendar for next year. So I always pack my watercolor sticks. And the pigment, these are Daniel Smith. I just love them. So I've got water on my brush. All I had to do was just touch the tip of it and look at this beautiful, rich pigment. Daniel Smith is probably one of my favorite brands of watercolor. Do y'all have a favorite? Those of you that use, I know Sue, she's uses watercolor. Anybody else? Do you have a favorite brand? I just love how rich the pigment is in their brand of watercolor. Isn't that pretty? And I could, if I wanted to mix some of them, whoops, let's see. Let's say if I wanted to, we're getting close. We'll soon be doing pumpkins before long. So just say I wanted to get some of this orange and add it with another color. I could just do it right here on my palette. I could pick up a little bit more. Good gracious, you can't even see it. Sorry, guys. No. All right, so what I did is I added a little of this over here. Isn't that pretty? That's the benefit of a palette. Okay, so this is called a dagger brush. I love daggers because you can do a straight line like that, or you can do like this, pick up, straight. Really should be the opposite, shouldn't it, because of the downstroke? But you get what I mean, don't you? So I was going to show you another favorite brush. I don't use this brush as much with lettering as far as to form the shapes. I use it to fill in the shapes. Let me show you one more brush. How are we on time? Okay. No, I'm going to show you two more brushes. I just want to show you all the things. All right, so this is a filbert. I love filbert. I love it with my acrylics. I love it with my watercolor. Watch this. All right, so I'm putting pressure down. I'm picking up, and look, makes a petal shape. So I use a filbert all the time. I use a filbert and the dagger, and then I usually will get like a, what you might call a pointy one, a liner brush, which I don't have with me. But the other brush that I use a lot is a water brush. I use this a lot whenever I'm doing lettering. So if you've never used one before, and of course I got the one that did not work, I need to throw this rascal away. So you put the water in the barrel, and then you squeeze the barrel, and the water is supposed to come out. This one is clogged up. It doesn't. Something's wrong with it. This one, so see right here, let me just show you because I want you to see it. And I'm sorry, this is if you're in the lettering group, they know this, but I want you to see it. All right. So let me get this on here. These are perfect for lettering. They fit really well in a pencil pouch. See, I squeezed it and the water came out. That color has been on there a long time, so it's not coming back up very well. But look at that. Let me try it with this. So I can just do this, pick up some, and you can almost do that same stroke even with this type of a tip. Put pressure down and pick up, and you can make little flower petals, which are fun. Or you can use it to fill in the letter shapes. So let me do one more. Where's my pencil? All right, so let's do an E. All right, so we're going to do this shape. This shape right here is used in so many letters. And letters all about, when you're doing hand lettering, it is all about drawing shapes. So think of it as drawing. So now I'm going to go down for the downstroke, add that second line, and then I'm going to go across for the E. Okay, so now I'm just going to fill this in. Get a little bit more paint on there. Let me pull it up so you can see. I've got to find my iPad. Okay, can you see that? So that's putting down the red. I want to get it a little bit darker though. So what I'm going to do is my brush is already wet. I'm going to touch it. This little roll-up thing is for crayons. I bought it at an artist marketplace, and it's perfect for my paint sticks. So now I'm going to go over here and drop a little bit more color. And this is wet. It's not soaking wet, but it's wet, so it's going to move. The color is going to move, but not as much because it's starting to dry. That is one thing about this paper, the $5 paper. It's great for lettering, but it does dry. It's I can't think of the word. It's very absorbent. Okay, so now I'll let that dry just a little bitty bit, and then I want to make him look like the rest of the family of letters, so I'm getting some of that rusty color, and I'm just going to drop it on the edge. And notice that I'm not dropping it. I'm not totally outlining this. I want this just to be for a little bit of visual interest. And so I'm just doing little pops of color with it. If I put it everywhere, then it's not going to add the pops. Little things pack a punch. Remember that. Little things, little touches. Okay, so now I want to show you one more thing that I can do with these neo colors. Let me see. So here's a neo color. I don't know if it's going to work on this since it's not quite as dry. I mean, it's not totally dry. Let's do it to this one. And that color is not the best color because it's almost the same. Let me do this. I'm looking for a purple. Here it is. So what color is this called? It's called purple. Imagine that. Just plain purple. So I'm just going to draw just little sporadic spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. Might put one there. So I just added a little bit of color there. Now I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to touch it. And so now I've added just little pops of color, little pops. And so this just makes this a nice cohesive little alphabet. It's not the full alphabet, but you get the idea. This is something that you can practice. Find your supplies, find your favorite, and just start practicing. What do you think? You have any questions? Can I show you one more palette before we go? We have 4 minutes. Hang on. If you're interested in painting with like the artist grade watercolor, did you know that you can order these little samples, these sample cards? So all this is, let me see if I can hold it sideways. It's a little dot of watercolor paint. And you can actually paint with these. So it's a dot of the paint, the name of the paint. It even tells you the details about it. So let me show you how you can even, I did this because this is a Daniel Smith. I think Winsor Newton also does this. But this is a way that you don't have to spend a lot of money testing colors and not know if it's going to work or not. So look at this. This is Serpentine Genuine. So I put a little bit of water on that. Look how pretty that is. I just love that color of green. But I wouldn't have known because it's hard to know what it's going to look like, isn't it? Just by its name. And I'm holding this at an angle for a reason. Can you see how that pigment is puddling up right there in that water and it's leaving this lighter? That's what I want it to do. I really love that. And that's one of the benefits of using like artist grade watercolor paint. But you can do the same thing with a cheaper grade paint as well. I don't think you can do it as well with the Neo Colors or the Tombow. It will do it, but not. It's just different. You'd have to play with it. So see, I'm just holding it. Now watch what happens. I'm just going to slide it a little bit. I'm leaning my page, and there it goes moving. It's just really pretty. So look, if you're interested in watercolor, and I tried to organize mine, so I've got a check mark by the ones that I've ordered. And I want to show you one of the ones that I really like. Let's see. This green, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Appetite Genuine. I really like this green. And I wouldn't have known it just by the name. Let me hold this up again. Watch this. Isn't it gorgeous? This is stress relief. You could just sit down with a pad of paper and experiment with different paints, experiment with different brushes, see what they do, and just relax. Don't try and force it to work. Just see what it wants to do. Then I could drop a little bit of that over here into this green, and it would add to the effect of this green. So that's just a little peep at some of my favorite art supplies or watercolor supplies. a little tip about the colors. This is just, and I don't remember how much this cost. It might have been $20, but it was so worth it because I got all of these. It's a 240 color chart is what it is. And it helped me determine what I liked, which ones I don't want to order. Like this rich green gold, that's one of my favorites. That's one that I buy. I don't know why I don't have that checked, that I have it, but I know I do. Isn't that pretty? I use this one a lot. So that's my little tips for today with the watercolor. This is Daniel Smith, but I feel pretty sure that other brands have these things. This is called a color chart, and it's got a key at the bottom. It tells you about the transparency of each color, the granulation. See, I like the granulation. Not everybody does, but if the staining, I don't know as much about that, and the light fastness, I don't worry so much about that because I don't sell paintings. I don't sell original watercolor paintings that I would have to worry about it. I'm just creating artwork for either to make products with or to do lettering. So, does anybody have any questions before we go? Is this helpful? I just found out that it's National Watercolor Month. So, I'm glad that I learned that. All right. So, I hope that this helps you and helps you see how easy it is to start with what you have, whether what you have is a Crayola or if you have the artist grade watercolors or even like the watercolor sticks, watercolor palette, the little Neocolors. Look for things that are water soluble. There's other things I didn't include in this. I just pulled some of the favorite. So, thank y'all. I hope that y'all enjoy the rest of your day. And if you haven't had lunch, that you get something good for lunch and that you stay cool. And I'll be back next Tuesday for Live at Lunch. Watch for a blog post. I'm going to do a blog post on this. So if you're not following us already over on our website, I hope you'll do that so that you can get that blog post and just y'all go use your creativity. All right. Y'all have a good day. I enjoyed you being here. Talk to you soon. Don't forget, it's not too late to go over there to Jingle Mingle. Start now, taking the chaos out of Christmas. All right. See y'all next week. Thank you, Dana and Linda, Susan, Sue. I appreciate y'all being here. It means a lot. It does. And for some of y'all are in the lettering and scripture journaling group, we have our Zoom tonight at 6 o'clock. So don't forget that.